Hawaii lawmakers are once again considering the pros and cons of legalized gambling as a way to meet the financial needs of Hawaiian homelands. House Bill 1962 would study the feasibility of casino gaming in Hawaii, as well as address potential public health and safety concerns. The following is taken directly from the House draft of the bill.
Hawaii residents typically take a total of about 500,000 trips to Las Vegas and other gambling destinations each year, with many taking multiple trips per year. In 2011, it was reported that Boyd Gaming, a Nevada-based gaming corporation, earns about $600 million from Hawaii annually. In 2021, the chief executive officer of Boyd Gaming disclosed on an investor call that the company relies heavily on gamblers coming from Hawaii.
The idea is that the money generated by the casino will help fund the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, from the language of the bill.
With over 28,000 native Hawaiians awaiting homestead leases, the Department of Hawaiian Homelands struggles to develop land and lots. Current costs for infrastructure development, borne by the department, are in excess of $150,000 per lot. To fulfill the needs of the current waitlist, the Department of Hawaiian Homelands requires over $6 billion for infrastructure costs alone to serve its beneficiaries. This significant sum is separate and apart from costs for maintenance of existing lessee communities housing nearly 10,000 beneficiaries, upkeep of several utility systems, and other costs. Over the last decade, the legislature has funded the Department of Hawaiian Homelands at higher levels than in previous years, which has provided increased opportunity for the department to increase its reach. However, even by conservative estimates, it will take the department at least another 100 years to meet the needs of its beneficiaries at current funding levels.
Representative Tarnas.
Reservations, please.
This live stream video from Wednesday's vote on the floor of the Hawaiʻi State House captured the discussion among lawmakers on both sides of the issue.
Please proceed.
Yesterday I gave a speech that was written 40 years ago about the plight of the Hawaiians and the hope that they had in the creation upon Oahu. I've had a lot of people come up to me and tell me it was a great speech, thank you everybody, but it's one that really got to me. It said, it was a great speech, but it was really sad that to see the hope they had 40 years ago and nothing happened. Nothing happened. So here we are, 40 years later. One of the lines in the speech was that the dream of salvation is founded upon the belief that the Hawaiian will one day control his own destiny. Last year, they wanted to pass a bill to, possibly do some casino to fund DHHL. We didn't pass it. It was approved by the commission. This year, this study is approved by the commission, the Hawaiian Homes Commission, and I just hope that we can put it back into our own hands. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And if I can have permission to insert written comments.
Speaker, no vote, brief comment.
No vote, so ordered. Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, this is a good shot across the bow which says, hey, we need money. We're DHHL, we don't have enough money. As the previous speaker from downtown said, we had hopes, and then the funding would go, and hopefully the $600 million that's on its way will not be interrupted or diverted or detoured. But Mr. Speaker, gambling is not the way to fund the Hawaiian Homes Commission. This is not the right way, but it's kind of like, hey, we'll take anything we can get. But this is not the legitimate way for this body to treat the people who are the host culture, the ones who have waited 100 years for housing, the ones who have actually been very patient, very gentle. But to say we got to put in gambling to do that, the quick fix is the wrong way to go. We have got to more genuinely look them straight in the eye and say, look, you deserve this. We're going to fund you legitimately. We're not going to do it on a crapshoot. We're not going to do it on the game of chance, which this is. So with that, Mr. Speaker, good intention, but it's a shot across the bow saying, hey, we need money. And I totally agree with that. But in terms of the methodology of it, totally disagree. Thank you.
Representative Capella.
No vote, please.
So ordered. Representative Mizuno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I agree. Gaming can be dangerous. We have issues with gambling. People have lost their houses, families. I get that. I get that. This bill is for a study. And whether you're for gambling or not, the simple fact remains people in Hawaii take 300,000 visits a year to Las Vegas, Nevada. People of Hawaii spend approximately $1 billion in Las Vegas, Nevada every year. Again, I'm not saying gambling's bad or good, but it is legal in 48 other states. I don't know where this will go, but I think a study will probably look at the pros and cons and tell us maybe gambling is not good for Hawaii. But I'd like to see that study done so at least we know. For those reasons, I support this measure. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Representative Eli.
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Tam.
No vote and a brief comment.
So ordered. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate what this is trying to do for the Native Hawaiian community, but we already know what the studies have shown, and that is that gambling is one of the leading causes of bankruptcy amongst families right now. And I get that many people will fly to Las Vegas to gamble, but at least they have a round-trip ticket to come back so they can, build back some of the funds that they lost for their family. And for those reasons, I'm still going to be a no vote.
Okay, thank you. Is there further discussion? Representative Holt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, second time. At the base of this, I understand it's about gambling, but I'll read it one more time. The dream of salvation is founded on the belief that the Hawaiian will one day control his own destiny. His own destiny. Now, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for putting forth the $600 million for DHHL, but this is their plan. This is how they want to fund the housing. So we're saying that we're just going to tell them what to do? That whenever we feel like we're going to fund them, we're going to give them money? So why do we have a department then? We should just get rid of the department. The commission should just go away. "40 years, Mr. Speaker. I know this is not OHA. DHHL's been around for 100 years. 100 years. People dying on the list. Anybody else go to the gaming conference this year? I did, because I went to go find about all the ills of gambling. No, they don't exist. Las Vegas doesn't want Hawaii to gamble. No, that's not the truth. I talked to these guys. We're just going to sit here and talk about bankruptcy. What about all the bankrupt Hawaiians? What are we doing to help them? If we're making like gambling doesn't exist, HPD has testified that there's 70 to 100 game rooms on Oahu at any given time. What are we doing to do that? Do we have any gambling mitigation in place? Hawaiians are going into bankruptcy. Everybody's going into bankruptcy. What is our solutions, Mr. Speaker? Yesterday we got trying not to transfer lands to DHHL. We always have excuses not to do it. What is our excuse to do it? When are we going to help? Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Representative Sayama.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in support.
Please proceed.
When we say that, a lot of folks from Hawaii like to go to Las Vegas, that's very true. But they're also moving there. Why? Because they don't have homes. Many of those families, hundreds, if not thousands, locals, Native Hawaiians are alike. And I believe that while gambling may not be a golden ticket, it might not be a perfect answer. It's something that the Department of Hawaiian Homelands is requesting that we study. I think that's really worthy of studying, investing in the money to do that. Like the previous speakers have mentioned, it's no secret that gambling is prevalent in Hawaii. I think if it's going to happen anyway, we might as well regulate it safely, responsibly, in a way that mitigates the social negatives that come with gambling, and try to take all the advantages of gambling and dedicate that to a worthy cause, to create homes for our local families, our Native Hawaiian families who've been waiting for years, generations really. So with that, I stand in support. Thank you.
Representative Tokioka.
Speaker, in support.
Please proceed.
Thank you very much. I've voted many times against gambling bills on this very floor. But what this bill asks for, specifically in bold print, study the feasibility of revenue generation from limited casino gaming and address the potential public health and safety concerns arising from limited casino gaming. That's what it says in the bill. So I don't think we can make bad decisions with too much information, and for those reasons, I support this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Quinlan.
Strong support.
Please proceed.
I think the Vice Chair of Economic Development hit the nail on the head. This is an issue of self-determination. The Commission voted on it, the Commission wants it, and that is why I support it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there further discussion? Representative Capello.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Still in opposition. Hawaii is home to over 2,500 unique and individual sex trafficking survivors. These are women and children who are victimized and trafficked here on our shores, and bringing in gambling will only make that number rise. If we care about women and children, then we need to ensure that gambling doesn't happen on our shores. And if we truly care about the future of Native Hawaiians, then we should be focusing on economic and social justice initiatives, not gambling with their futures.
Okay, Representative Todd.
Thank you. In support.
Please proceed.
I just wanted to note that there are some legitimate concerns regarding the future of gaming within our state, which is why we should study those potential concerns and potential negative health outcomes, which is exactly what the study intends to do. I also did find it pretty ironic last year that many of the folks who came out to testify against the legalization of some sort of limited casino gaming are many of the same folks who support the legalization of marijuana. I think that there is a very distinct parallel between the two in that marijuana is already being consumed in Hawaii, but we're not stepping up as a regulator to capture that revenue. There are negative health outcomes, but those health outcomes already exist. I feel like gaming is very similar in that anyone who wants to gamble within Hawaii is already gambling in Hawaii. The difference is we are not stepping up as the regulator. We're relying on institutes like Vice to try and control these operations, but they're happening in all of our communities as is. Anyone who wants to gamble on an app can do so already with no consequences, but we are not capturing any of that tax revenue. We are not stepping up as a regulator. We are not collecting data. So I believe a study like this, which again is just a study, and which could potentially discuss out in the open all of the potential negative outcomes and all of the positive outcomes, makes a lot of sense. In the same way that I think studying the impact of legalizing and regulating marijuana makes a lot of sense. That's all I have. Thank you.
Representative Ward, second speech.
Second time in opposition, Speaker. Speaker, for a few of us who have been here for a little while, particularly the longest serving is underneath the clock to the left, or at least to my left. He knows and I know that we've been here, done this, it's the same old, same old. Study it, we're going to do it, we travel there, we do it. So nothing is new, even though the need for revenue of DHHL is very real. But do we want to make the poorest community in Hawaii poorer? That's what this is going to do. 80% of all of the people who gamble lose. So if we already got the people and the dens for gambling, whether there be wherever they are on Oahu, let those guys carry on. And for those who say, well, we're foregoing revenue, if you look at the other states who did this, Mr. Speaker, they back out the appropriation from their departments and they fill it with gambling. Then when gambling goes down, they say, oh, look, we don't have any money. My point is, DHL is going to lose money if this bill passes and gambling is legalized. Because the states that have relied upon education, saying, oh, this is great for the keiki, as soon as the gambling revenue went down, they didn't replace it with actually executive budget. So this is a lose-lose proposition. And again, for those who have been here for a while, this is kind of the same old that we've gone through, and it's no different. What we got to do is legitimately fund DHHL. That's what the whole argument is about. This is kind of like another way of getting our attention. As I said earlier, it's a shot across the bow. Pay attention to the Hawaiians, keep our promise, put the $600 million that is in there, steady as you go, and every year increase it. But gambling as a quick fix is the wrong way to go. Thank you.
All right, Representative Ward, please address the chair in the future. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
Next page.
Speaker, if you would address that to
Speaker.
other people, if you do it to other people also, I would
Members
totally
of
agree
Ward.
with you.
Next page, 118.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, Representative Lopresti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With reservations and brief comments?
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you, sir. I see this as not just a study. I've been around the block enough times to know that when a department says they want to do something and then they ask you for money to do a study, it's basically they're asking for a budget to create an argument for why they should be allowed to do what they already want to do or what they said they want to do. And I'm not interested in giving $500,000 budget to create a study that tells us the foregone conclusion of what they want the answer to be. So I have little trust that that would actually happen. So for now, I'm at reservations, but in the future, I can't see supporting this. Thank you.
Representative Prusso.
No vote. Thank you.
So ordered. Representative Matayoshi.
With reservation, Speaker, brief comment.
Please proceed.
I generally am against gambling and legalized gambling in Hawaii. I really consider it something of a regressive tax on the middle and lower income individuals living here. And whilst casino gambling, if we do legalize it in a limited capacity, it'll still go underground for the people who don't meet whatever qualifications we put in. So generally, again, I'm still against legalized gambling. I'm voting with reservations because this is just a study, but as the representative from EVA pointed out, studies typically go a certain way when, they're almost like expert witnesses in law, or they're going to go a certain way if the department wants it to go a certain way. I'm certainly going to keep an open mind as I read this study, but with reservations for now. Thank you.
Okay, is there further discussion?
Mr. Speaker.
Bronco.
In support, Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed.
We love to use Hawaiian phrases to look across the ocean or travel or to search for knowledge. We love to use our Hawaiian words. We love to use our olelo no eau to generally support our arguments. But when it comes to Hawaiians actually looking for knowledge, you're going to use that against us. I remind everyone, this is a study. My community does not agree with gambling, but this is a study, this is an opportunity for information, and this is an opportunity for the Hawaiian people to self-determine their future. So let's stop saying what is right or what is wrong for Hawaiians, and let's let Hawaiians speak for themselves, because I'm getting tired of other people telling our people what is right. So let's remember that. This is a study seeking knowledge. We always want other people to seek knowledge. Mahalo.
The bill passed second reading and has been referred to the House Committee on Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs and the Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce. Hearings will be held on a future date.
Stand calm.